Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today we're talking about the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker pre-sales and how there's been a lot of really interesting information going around among several YouTube channels and among several blogs about how there is speculation that Disney is buying out tickets to theaters to make it look like Rise of Skywalker is doing better than what it actually is. And the evidence that's being presented are people just pulling up overall sales for individual theaters and trying to point out various trends. Now, this is something that came up not too long ago, was when the Captain Marvel movie had come out. There were a lot of people speculating that there were people buying out tickets or Disney pretending and faking ticket sales to make the film look better than what it actually did. There's just a few problems with this mindset because this definitely, to me, dives more down a conspiracy theory territory, and the evidence that's being presented really isn't as hard-hitting and really isn't as solid as many people might think that it is. Now, I've mentioned this several times before on the channel. I used to work at a movie theater, so I feel that I have a little more knowledge than some other people might have about how ticket sales work, how we set up theaters, and how many theaters operate when it comes to big new premieres, but also just movie selling movie tickets in general. And that really comes down to the fact that the big selling point, or the big thing that a lot of people are trying to point out, are, well, how come all the first rows, the very first row, the very front of a movie theater, all these seats are selling out? That doesn't make any sense, because why would anyone want to sit there? It seems to be pretty odd. Well, that's exactly the point, really. The fact that those are the worst seats that are available in any movie theater. And so I know that for our movie theater, where I worked at in New Orleans, we would always leave every single seat open. You keep in mind that when it comes to reserving seats, that's a relatively new phenomenon. That's something that the last 5 years has become a lot more prominent. You now have whole theaters now that are becoming only pre-sales or only reserved seating, so that you can't just buy a ticket and sit whatever you want anymore. Now you have to actually pick a seat. Some people love it, some people hate it. But now in this new age where you have anyone can choose any seat that they want, and you have to have these reserved seats, what you have a lot of theaters doing now, at least in some areas, in some companies, and I would even say it's almost specific in certain countries, is that you have them selling out, or at least buying out, or making it seem like the first row has been bought out. And the reason why is because they only will open up those seats when the movie itself becomes close to selling out. And the reason why they do that is because, and this is something that I know we've had to do before at the theater that I worked at, when a theater is getting close to selling out, you shut it down. So whenever a movie theater sells out, usually it's not going to be every single seat in that auditorium is going to be filled up. And the reason why is because there's always situations where some people might try and sneak in. There's always situations where there might easily be an error in the system as well. And so you want to try and give yourself a little bit of cushion, and you basically will sell out a theater. So basically what would happen is we would go into the actual system where it'd say, oh, 10%'s left, 5%'s left. And whenever it would hit that 5% mark, we would go in and we would sell out that theater. So we would say, oh, there's no more tickets available, even if there were technically still maybe 5 or 10 seats left, and they would most likely be in that very front row where no one in their right mind would seat. It seems to me like some of these theaters that are being pointed out are kind of trying to go before the cart before the horse, where they're trying to essentially say, we're just going to take those seats off the table, and if we do get to a sellout situation, maybe we can actually even open up those seats and make a little bit more money to the side, or at least leave those seats open for any people that might come in late, or for any people that there might be an error in the system where it maybe doubles up and sells the ticket for people in the same seat, or something crazy, right? That way you can say, oh, we have these seats available in case something crazy happens. We do have seats available, though they might not be the best seats. There are still seats available nonetheless. So it's a way for them to kind of save themselves from any crazy situations that might happen. But also it's very logical when you think about it. And I know that there's some people out there going to try and say, oh, but no, I've got the evidence, I've got the theaters right in front of me. Here's the problem, as I said before, all you are doing is looking at what the theater is telling you is true about that theater. There's been plenty of times before where you can look at a theater and it can say sold out, but in reality what's happened is a school group or a giant group, or the screen maybe has broken. And so therefore you will see that sometimes it'll be listed as being sold out, when in reality you did not have 100, 200 seats that were actually sold for that individual movie. Now, of course, that is a lot more of a rare case, and we're talking here specifically about rows of seats that seem to be sold out. But as I said, that actually makes a lot of sense for a lot of theaters, because no one is going to be wanting to get those seats in the first place, because no one wants to be looking up at a giant screen having to strain their necks just to see something on something just to see and watch a movie. Most people are going to try and get the back row. I mean, I remember hearing someone, I think it was my boy Fatal J, and I love my boy Fatal J, but I remember at one point in his video he said, who wants to buy, maybe I misheard him, but it sounded like he said, who wants to buy the last row of a theater? Well, I can tell you, as someone that worked at a theater and has gone to many movies, the back row is usually the first to go. It's usually one of the first. So people either will go to the middle. People who know something about movie theaters, who want to get the best sound and the best vision of the screen, will go somewhere in the middle. And those will usually sell pretty well. But then there's a lot of other people that don't want to have anyone sitting behind them. It's pretty logical because we live in a world now where people will kick seats and will talk and will cause all kind of chaos. And so if you only have to deal with people in front of you and not behind you, a lot of people would prefer that. Also, it tends to be where people go when they know, hey, maybe I want to actually talk to somebody and I'll be less disruptive up in the back. It's just this weird phenomenon. I don't quite know how to explain it, but people are usually drawn to the back of a theater. And so that actually makes a lot of sense as to why a lot of those seats might also be selling. In addition to this, you look at just the way that movie ticket theaters, work. And you look at the fact that this is a Star Wars film. And I know that people like me are looking at the trailers and saying, God, this trailer looks awful. But it's interesting that we're all looking at the Star Wars trailer and we're looking at the downvote numbers. And there's a huge, chunk of people, it's like 90,000 on the Star Wars page, have disliked it at this point because there is a strong contingency of fans that are just so over what Disney is doing. However, there are still a lot of people that either like Star Wars or just are ambivalent towards it. You bring up The Last Jedi to them and they say, yeah, it wasn't the best movie, but I was entertained. They were like, I was shoving popcorn down my face and that was entertaining enough for me. Again, I might not agree with them. I think that they're ignoring objective reality. But again, just like we've tried to make clear in The Phantom Menace, you are entitled to your subjective opinion. You are entitled to like a movie. You're entitled to, like whatever it is you want. The only thing that I ever say is you can like whatever it is you want. You can subjectively like whatever you want, but you have to be able to, at the very least, admit when there are objective flaws with any given film. And a lot of times I've had people in the comment section saying, there's no such thing as objectively good movies. And I just spit back at them. Oh, so you're saying that the movie like The Room, Tommy Wiseau's The Room, is not objectively bad? If you're going to go ahead and say that to my face, that it's not objectively bad and that's just a subjective opinion, then you're an idiot. And there's really not much else I can do with you. And it's not me just throwing an insult. It's not just me showing and saying, oh, I don't want to argue with you or debate with you because I'm calling you names. It is literally you're ignoring reality at that point in time. And so there's no way to communicate with you in that way. But with all that being said, I think that this news is true. I think that this movie is outselling a lot of other films. The problem, though, is that many times when people mention these stats saying record-breaking, selling more tickets, etc., it's normally in relation to only certain parts of a film. So maybe it's outselling the film in the first hour. I could believe that. There was a lot of traffic for this film. There was websites shutting down. At the same time, too, and I think this is where you might have some room to speculate saying, this doesn't sound quite right. I remember when Endgame tickets went on sale, and I remember that those websites were down for a large part of the day. But that actually could help explain why this movie could be doing better because of all the technical glitches and problems. Not a lot of tickets were able to be sold by Fandango and by other websites when Avengers Endgame came out. In addition to that, maybe you could have it say that now they've had the system set so that they are ready for more traffic. They were anticipating more traffic than usual for a given film. Maybe they've learned their lesson and maybe they've upgraded their systems to allow for more people to buy tickets, which is why you have a higher rate or a higher number. All these things are, they're not proving anything. Again, I don't have any physical proof right in front of me either, but my main point is anyone claiming to have physical proof of saying the other thing, saying what is different than that also doesn't have any proof because you just pointing to any given theater and saying, look, the first row is sold out in all these screens, that doesn't make any sense. That's a conspiracy. Again, that's speculation, right? That's when you get into the speculation territory. And of course, we on YouTube, we like to speculate. We like to say, hey, this is what we have in front of us. This is what we think it might mean. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of different opinions on that. But as I said before, as someone that's worked in a movie theater before, and I remember trying to push this entire rumor conspiracy down when it happened with Captain Marvel, because there were people, especially in other countries like Australia, saying, oh, look at all these things. But then when you actually dove into it, you realize, oh, no, that's actually a standard for a lot of theaters in that area to sell out that first row because no one's going to want those seats anyway. So let's keep them available just in case the movie happens to get close to selling out. I think that there's just too much evidence to the contrary. I don't think there's enough evidence. And I know that we want this to be true. Trust me. I would love for there to be hard evidence that Disney is flubbing the numbers when it comes to their ticket sales. If we want to talk about their theme parks, it's already been shown that they very well could have, and there's signs that they fake their numbers there by counting, gift cards twice, etc. And we have an SEC filing going on for that. Those are the things we should be focusing on, right? Those official stories, those official, actual people investigating and looking into their accounts and looking into their books. Just us going to random theaters and saying, oh, this means this, is just, I think, disingenuous. And I'm not saying that anyone's lying on purpose, and I'm not saying that anyone is trying to make up any false any false just controversies. I think that in reality it's people that have not really paid attention a lot to movie ticket sales, have not worked in movie theaters, and don't know how movie theaters tend to work when it comes to sales, especially when it comes to pre-sales. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this. Do you think that there's this conspiracy going on of them buying tickets? And if you do, please provide hard evidence. And if your evidence is look at individual theaters and look at the first row being sold out, that is not evidence. As I've just pointed out, I've just been able to explain how that does not work, how there is a lot more to the story than just that. If you have anything else, please, again, point it my way. I would love to be wrong on this. I would love to be calling out Disney here. I would love to be saying that they're cheating here, because obviously I've got plenty of issues with Disney. You all know I am not a pro-Disney channel. It's very hard for me to come out, but as I've always said, I try and stay honest with you guys. I always try and be honest as I possibly can, and to think about things maybe a little bit differently than other people tend to. I don't try and just jump on bandwagon. I'm not saying other people are doing that, but I just like to, especially since I do have that movie theater background, to look at things just a little bit differently. So anyway, let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash that like button, give me a subscribe. It helps me out a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.